Let's start at the basics. What does it mean to have a human experience? Is it our jobs, names, religious beliefs, or is there something deeper? Throughout time and history, science, religion, and philosophers have all tried to identify and label why are we here and what is our purpose. My challenge to you is, what if your purpose and meaning is whatever you choose to make it? What if in all these areas of life we get to choose what we want to connect to and how we want to define our human experience? In this episode, I'm going to explore with you some basics of the human experience in science, spirituality, psychology, and the metaphysical. So, who are we? Well, at the root, we are all energy. If we were to take apart the human body, psyche, and consciousness, it is all a level of energy. Atoms moving at a rapid pace that make us and the world around us appear solid. This solid state is due to the frequency at which we are vibrating. Yet, this solid state is only there due to our observation of it. Have you heard the old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is around, it doesn't make a sound? Well, a surprising answer to this is no, it doesn't, and here's why. The vibration of the tree falling flows to our ears, which vibrates the many different components of our eardrum, which then sends a signal to our brain where a sound is perceived. So, our perception of those vibrations creates that sound. Here's another one. Have you heard of the double slit experiment? This one demonstrates a quantum mechanics phenomena. Thomas Young first performed this in 1801 and later in 1927 by Davidson and Germer, with more studies in 2012 and 2018. In this study, it demonstrated that light and matter can display characteristics of both classically defined waves and particles. However, an odd phenomena occurred during this experiment that, by the very act of observing the light particles, the results were affected. This later became known as the observer effect. Here's another phenomena. Let's look at this from a psychology perspective. Have you ever wanted to buy a car so bad, and let's say this dream car is blue? Suddenly you start seeing this blue car everywhere. This is a type of confirmation bias called the frequency illusion or Baader-Meinhof phenomena. Your brain begins to select stimuli around you that's been there the whole time, but because you are now consciously focused on it, your brain begins to focus in, narrow in, and notices it. So this essentially means our perception is often biased, selective, and it's also malleable. So if your brain is affecting and selecting things to focus on, who's in control of it? This is another interesting phenomenon of your brain. I'd like you to take a moment and think, who's thinking your thoughts? Weird, right? You can step back and observe yourself. Scientists today have yet to clearly define consciousness or where it's located in the brain. So I bring this up because your brain is a powerful machine designed to interpret, perceive, and influence the world around you. So here are the basics. You are energy. Your perception is powerful not only to physical matter, but how you actually interpret the world around you. You are also the observer of yourself, yet also an acting participant. So if you are all these things and your brain is functioning this way, what reality are you actively or passively choosing to focus on? And how do you view yourself and life situations? And what kind of life are you creating for yourself? Let's go back to that first example, the observer effect. If we can observe physical matter and it affects light particles somehow, does that affect other areas of our life? Let's look at this through a theoretical lens. What if your brain is a broadcast station? Your thoughts are the frequency being emitted. If you were to analyze the frequency in relation to what type of life you're living, do the frequencies match? If we are broadcasting a frequency of reality, are we living that reality? And is that why there can be so many different variations in the perception of reality? Next, let's evaluate the Baader-Meinhof phenomena. If our brains are noticing things in our environment based on the mental object we are focusing on, what type of mental projections are we placing in the world around us when we're observing it? For example, if I'm focusing on that blue car and suddenly it's all around, what would happen if I'm focusing on all the bad around me or all of the good? Would that influence what I'm noticing in my environment? And then, would that later influence other areas? If I'm perceiving all of the bad, how in turn would that then make me feel? Does that create a whole system and loop where I'm then feeling bad and I look for the bad and I see only the bad or the good? Finally, who is that conscious observer? The brain has a function of running, thinking, yet there is an observable part. So are we the brain, the observer, or both? If we are the observer, that would mean we get to actively choose and train what the brain focuses on. Are we both? If we're both, then we must also consider one of my absolute favorite words in psychology, and that is neuroplasticity. This means your brain is malleable and can change. It is not in a fixed state. And this is a direct result of what we essentially feed it and choose to focus on. So one way I like to describe this is to think of each thought like a single brick. And you are building a road of neurotransmitters. Each thought creates one more brick, and suddenly there's a nice, efficient road, or automatic thought and reaction. So some part of us is in control of this, and we get to change the direction if we want to. But like anything, it has to be a conscious choice. We must be the observer, aware of the direction in which our thoughts are going, our perceptions, how we are interpreting the world. Because if our brain is just the machine and we are the machine, how does that also entail the other elements of this conscious observer? So what is this human experience? We have the power to shape our reality based on what we want to focus on. There's another saying that says, what we focus on grows. So think of the last time you woke up. And if you're in that bad mood, from that moment on, your brain was able to identify everything around you in that day that reinforced that belief system or that perception that today was a bad day. Until you actively chose or focused on something else or an event changed your perception. Now, here's another interesting part of our brains. Our brains are also focused and wired to focus on the negative because it provides an evolutionary advantage for survival. So now that we know it's hardwired to look for the negative, we also must understand the evolutionary part of this. Our environment has really changed. Our brains, not as quickly. So in today's society, we are now having higher rates of anxiety and depression, but we also have continuous bombardment through various networks that affect, shift, and hijack our perception of the world. So back to being the active observer. Another cool part is that we have choice. We can rewire and redirect our thought processes. We can choose what we want to feed our mind. So my question to you is, what are you choosing to focus on? So far we are energy, our choices and our choices around perception, which affect the type of life we are experiencing based on our focused energy. So now let's look at the spiritual. When we look at the spirit, what is that? Is that the part of us that can step back and observe ourselves, or is that something greater? Many have tried to research this through various methods, even to go as far as weighing the body before and after death to see how much the body changed in weight. There are people who claim to see and talk to the dead. There's known haunted places in the world. There's shamans, spiritual healers in various tribes, and the list goes on to many unexplained spiritual experiences. So what is this? What is this unknown, unseen part of our reality? Is this something made up in the minds of millions, or is there more to it? Is it the frequency illusion, where we're having a confirmation bias? Or is there frequencies and energy around us that we're just not aware of or able to tune into? Here's another thought-provoking aspect. Visible light, the entire rainbow of radiation observable to the human eye, only makes up a tiny portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, at about 0.0035%. So if that's all our eyes can pick up, is it possible some people can pick up more? Some animals certainly can. So what's beyond this? Are there other worlds, dimensions, entities, spirits, life forms we're not able to observe? And how is this relevant to our human experience? Are we more than our observations, our perceptions? Can we step into any type of perception? Now, if we were to travel the world and go and visit different cultures, every culture has a different perception of reality, what's considered norm, what's considered functional, dysfunctional. And depending where you are in relation to the world and your own beliefs, that could seem very odd to somebody else. So back to that human experience, that element, that question, what are we? Are we whatever we choose to be and whatever we want to live and whatever we want to choose to focus on? Are we our perceptions? Are we this energy? And is there more to our existence and our reality? With that, I'd like to challenge you to explore, what do you normally focus on? Is it all the good or all the bad in the world, and what takes up most of your attention? And how does that affect your overall life and your overall experience? Is it confined thought processes that seem solid and stagnant and stuck? Or do you live an experience of open and awe and wonder, and you experience life in many vibrant, unique ways because of that opened perception of reality? So what is the human experience? We think in terms of energy and vibration. There's so much to this world, so many unknown parts of our existence, so many parts of our reality that have yet to even be scientifically defined and understood. There's other parts of the spiritual experience. Let's go into the meaning as well of a Hinduism word of chakras. Some of you may have heard of this, but these are energy centers of the human body. In Buddhism and Hinduism, there's various points or wheels throughout the body in terms of energy. So if you think of your body like a circuit board, and these wheels are connection points throughout this physical body. And these connection points are theorized to be associated with different aspects of our life, organs, wellness, and overall well-being. Now we think again in terms of energy. Energy can become stagnant or blocked in these spaces, which then can affect different areas of our life or slow down these centers, and then in turn affect our mental, emotional, or physical well-being. Now, one energy center that's interesting, it's called the third eye, and it's located in the middle of your forehead, and it's supposed to be associated with greater vision, like psychic abilities, increased consciousness, awareness, spiritual gifts. What is fascinating about this? It's located in the middle of our forehead, also connects to a gland, pineal gland, that's located in the middle of our brain. And this gland actually has crystalline structure within it, calcite microcrystals. Now, if anybody's into metaphysical aspects of our reality and studies stones or crystals, there's different healing elements that is associated with each of these. So back to perception and our brain and reality. Now we've got the metaphysical side of things where we have a crystalline structure literally in the middle of our brain. And we have people who use crystals for healing. And that affects these energy centers, these chakras. And if we go back to the theory that your brain could be this transmitter into the world. Think about that for a second. That goes right back to you are so powerful. You are a powerhouse. You are literally defining and creating your lived experience through your perceptions with your mind. Your mind is in turn influencing the world around you, scientifically, perception-wise, somehow, maybe even in a metaphysical aspect that is yet unknown. Now, if you are this amazing, powerful being, what kind of life are you living? I want to challenge you right now. Step into whatever version of yourself that you want to be. Because you are this magnificent being of energy, a unique blueprint of frequency that nobody else has or is. So project into the world an amazing, beautiful experience and see how changing your thoughts and what you want to focus on begins to change your life. Now, join me on the next episode, and I'm going to explore some more interesting research, one done in Italy specifically on observable light and different spectrums using various instruments and what they were able to uncover. And we're going to go a little bit more into that energy and vibration part. Thank you for joining me. My name's Tiffany. I'm so excited to share this information with you. If you want to learn more, check out my website, tiffany-clark.com.